Next, I call on Senator Lawlor, please.
Thanks very much, Cathaoirleach. First of all, I welcome the Minister in here. It's always nice to have the Senior Minister here to discuss something, particularly something as far-ranging as this development plan as far as 2040. And like some of the other speakers, and particularly Senator O'Mahony, it is important to plan. For too long we've done things on a hip-hop way, and having something long-term that we can actually try and attain to is very important. And I agree with Senator McDougall with regard to these things need a time frame, and it's okay writing them down on paper, but it is vitally important that we do set out targets as to what we want to achieve. I always go back to Minister Bruton when he was Minister for Jobs and Enterprise. He came up with this action plan for jobs, targets reached every year, and he was accountable. People were accountable as to why they weren't reached. And I think that's important that we set out those sort of targets going forward, because otherwise things lapse. And the key part in all that is that we have the finance in place on a long-term basis. So we need stability with regard to where our economy is going. And I always refer to Germany as being the model. Germany doesn't have boom and bust cycles, so they can plan long-term for infrastructure projects because they know the money is going to come in on a regular basis, whereas we have had boom and bust on a regular basis here, so we can't plan. We're actually from an economic perspective, in the wrong end of a cycle. During the bust part, we should actually be investing in infrastructure, and during the boom part, we should be saving for the next bust. But we're in, as usual, we make a mess of things here, and it's not Fine Gael's fault, it's usually Fianna Fáil's fault, but anyway, we cleared up the mess. I refer to something with regard to planning. My mother opened the first motorway in Ireland, the M7, the Naas bypass as it was known, in 1983 with Dick Spring. And the great thing about that is the road widening that at the moment. And it was planned at that time for 3 lanes. There is none of the bridges has to be changed or moved as a result of that. And when you see that sort of planning that went back in 1983, we're almost 40 years later, that they're able to utilise the infrastructure that was put in place to create a 3rd lane. That is what planning and good planning should be about. And it's some of the things, Minister, that when we put in a Lewis line or we put in a new road network, that we actually think not of today or 10 years, but 40, 50, 60 years down the road, so as that we don't have to go back and rebuild again. I mentioned the M7 because, Minister, as you're well aware, that upgrading is taking place, but also the Sallins bypass. And one of the things we should look at too as well, within our towns that are developing and our major hubs, we should actually be supporting whatever is needed with regard to ring road infrastructure around these towns, and allow planners in towns to be able to plan for 20, 30 years instead of the 5-year plans that they develop now at the moment. Just an example for Naas, I'm pushing hard that we have an exterior ring road, that at least to put the line on the map now, that we can actually get a feasibility study, that in 20 years' time we have the potential of putting that road in place, and that we look long-term. So some sort of what I would call assurance from yourselves, Minister, in the department too as well, that they would encourage that type of long-term development. Someone built the tunnel under the Phoenix Park. It was left idle for almost 100 years, and in fairness to your predecessor, it was opened up, and it's now been linking most of Kildare into the heart of Dublin. Someone built that in the 1850s, and we're getting the real benefit of it now. So again, I go back to when you put in some plan in the past, or put in a plan now, that we make sure that that we can actually carry it forward for a long time. One of the things I argued about when there were the 3-lane and the M7, I said, why don't we put the Lewis line down the middle of that, all the way as far as Naas, have a big park and ride and link it in all the way. And no one at the time could give me a logical reason for why it couldn't happen. And again, I was looking for something 10, 15, 20 years down the road, whereas again a lot of planners are only working on a 5-year cycle, or even worse still, a government cycle. And we should break, and this 2040 plan breaks that. The railway line, Minister, we do need 4 lanes all the way down to Kildare and the computer belts all the way around and that needs to be put in place as one of the priorities, because if we want to get people off the roads, and the easiest way for them to commute from the greater Dublin area into the heart of Dublin is on the railways. It makes very simple sense to do, and it should be one of the priority ones. On the public transport side, I have been in contact with NTA and TII. They have a lot of lands at the junctions of the roundabouts. They should be converted into park and rides. Buses can pull in there and then head into the centre of town. There's a whole lot of them. Even my own little village of Johnstown, TII own a 2-acre patch that could be levelled off. The buses go by it anyway, and a park and ride facility made available. And every one of these junctions should be looked at for that purpose altogether. On the tourism side, Minister, I know it's your brief. The canals, we need to urgently work on the greenways along them. I think they're a fantastic tourist facility. The ones that have been opened up already, particularly in the west and in Waterford, and we're starting to see them now. But I've always looked at these as a huge linkage and a huge tourist boost for this country. People come to this country not for the weather, they come for other things. And those other things are those linkage to greenways. I did throw out an idea one time that with Irish Water, that where they could use, they have a natural right-of-way all the way from the Shannon to Dublin, the canals, that could be used as the transport of water straight from the Shannon into Dublin, and maybe have some storage place along the way. And while they were doing that, open them up as greenways too as well. It's just an idea I've thrown out there. On the sporting side, Minister, one of the things that sports clubs and organisations want to know is that will the sports capital funding continue on a long-term basis? And because of the fact that they're only not getting the huge grandesses that was given out by a previous Kildare man, Minister McCreevy, clubs got themselves into fierce problems. I know my own club in Kildare got €750,000 and they had to get 30% and it put them into fierce problems over a period of time. Clubs are getting smaller sums of money now, so they're actually stepping their plans, but they'd like to know that it's going to come out on a regular basis, that we're going to have something on a yearly basis that they can apply for as 50, 100 or 250 or whatever, those sort of numbers. So they would like to know that on the long run. And I'm going to get very parochial now, Minister, and because part of it talks about 2040, but it also talks about transport matters. Kildare County Council spent $500,000 during the snow last winter, and they would like to get that back somehow or other, because it goes to rural roads. And there are lots of little rural roads around the place that need to be not so much upgraded but repaired to make them passable, because they're all the people in the rural areas they pay their property tax, they support the rural industries out there in various locations around the country. But I'm very parochial at that, and I do apologise on that. But I do think local authorities should know on a long-term basis what they're going to get each year, so as they can plan and have a plan of scheme. Because I've always looked at county councils, they plan from year to year as to what they get from the department. Whereas if they had a 5 or a 10-year plan, okay, a councillor can go up to people on this road and say, your road will be done in 3 years' time. The council, the money will be there for in 3 years' time. Well, that doesn't seem to be happening, because it's not a multi-annual budget they get, it's an annual budget. And if we can put
Senator, your time is nearly up, Senator.
Yeah, and I'm just about finished.
Thank you.
So I'm going to finish up by, again, thanking the Minister for coming here. As I said earlier on, it's great to have senior ministers coming into the Seanad to hear on issues that we have here. And I wish you luck, and hopefully some of those ideas I've thrown out might be taken on board.